In 2018, a nuclear war ensued between the nations from Earth and the Moon Nazis. The Moon Nazis are known as the remaining Nazis who flee from Earth after World War II. They established and inhabited a secret Nazi base on the dark side of the Moon. For many years, the Moon Nazis built spaceships and gathered massive weapons. They had long planned and prepared their attack to take over the entire Earth and spread the Nazi ideology. The Earth nations were deemed victorious after the war, but the planet has suffered, and Earth is no longer inhabitable for humankind. The surface of the Earth slowly became a nuclear wasteland full of deadly radiation. The surviving humans end up seeking refuge in the Moon Nazis' base, now called Neomania. Neomania is founded and managed by Renate Richter, a woman with a kind heart towards the human race. Towards the year 2047, Neomania has developed a new official religion called Jobsism. This religion is formed by a cult, spreading the teachings of their alleged god, Steve Jobs, and promotes their excessive admiration for technology. On the other hand, the moon base is starting to collapse because of overpopulation and the impact of the damaged moon from the war. Obianaju Obu Washington was born and raised in Neomania and has devoted herself to improving the living conditions for everyone. She is also Renate's daughter with her late astronaut husband, James Washington. One day, Obi and Renate detect a mysterious spaceship approaching the moon base. The spaceship manages to override the commands of the moon base, which alarms Renate. Obi, on the other hand, suspects that the spaceship is harmless. Fearing for their welfare, Renate orders the guards to shoot the spaceship. Obi immediately stops her mother from shooting down the mysterious spaceship and instead helps it land safely. As it turns out, the spaceship is piloted by Sasha, carrying a number of Russian refugees from Earth. Sasha shares that they have been hiding underground on Earth until he could fix the broken spaceship. Ova examines the spaceship and criticizes Sasha for how he fixed the ship until Renate interrupts them. Renate tells Sasha and the Russian refugees that they cannot stay in the moon base because they barely have enough food and supplies for everyone. Obi defends the refugees and succeeds in convincing Renate to let them stay for the meantime. Afterwards, Sasha and the newly arrived refugees are moved to the storage room. At this time, a moonquake disturbs the entire moon base, making it difficult for the residents to breathe. But in an instant, Obi stabilizes the moon base's air pressure. Later, Obi passes by the Temple of the Jobsists, where their leader, Donald, delivers his sermon. Donald is completely devoted to their religion, and he is strict about following Steve Jobs and his ideas. In the middle of their worship, Donald finds out that one of the Jobsists jailbroke their phone. Donald and the worshippers thinks that the Jobsist is not content with Steve Jobs' power. As punishment, Donald vanishes one of the members who has allegedly broken their rules. He uses his own iPad to corrupt the Jobsist's phone, which results in an explosion inside the temple. The accused Jobsist member gets punished by being blown into pieces, making Obi confront Lena, another Jobsist. Oba complains to Lena about the Jobsist's questionable actions, but Lena responds nonchalantly. In annoyance, Obi retaliates by shattering the glass entrance of the Jobsist temple. When she steps inside, Obi sees her mother attending the worship. Renate lets out a loud cough, prompting Obi to be worried. She is revealed to have developed terminal illness and currently does not have enough supply of medicine. Shortly after, Donald and a security officer named Malcolm greets Renate and Obi. Renate teases Obi and tells her that she and Malcolm would make beautiful babies, to which Obi ignores. Later, Obi continues to make repairs to her transport ship Amelia. The transport ship is the only spaceship that survived the aftermath of the war. However, the majority of Amelia's parts are either lost or damaged, and Obi has been working on fixing the ship for a long time. Obi then goes to examine and study Sasha's refugee ship. Just then, she catches sight of a mysterious figure wearing a hooded cape. Obi follows the mysterious figure closely, but she gets discovered and is knocked unconscious. After a while, Obi wakes up with her hands tied inside an old office. She meets the mysterious figure, who reveals himself as Führer Wolfgang Kurzfleisch, one of the former leaders of the Moon Nazis. Obi grows confused after seeing Wolfgang before her alive, knowing how her mother mentioned that he was already dead. Meanwhile, Wolfgang approaches Obi, aggressively asking for information about the Götterdam. The Götterdam was a gigantic spacecraft developed during Wolfgang's reign. The spacecraft is similar to the size of a large city and was previously used during the nuclear war in 2018, which permanently damaged a portion of the moon. When he asks Obi about the old spacecraft, she replies that his ship has been long destroyed and ignored by everyone in the moon base. Wolfgang becomes furious, causing him to slap Obi. He reprimands all the human beings, blaming them for ruining the Götterdam. Soon enough, Obi frees her wrists from the rope as she and Wolfgang engage in a fistfight. While Obi aggressively attacks Wolfgang, he stops her, claiming that he can help her cure Renate's illness. Wolfgang hands her a small mineral before Obi leaves him in the office. Obi then comes back to the Jobsis temple to look for her mother, Renate. She finds her coughing in the middle of praying to an iPad. Seeing her worsening condition, Obi gives her the mineral and makes her eat it. As soon as Renate consumes the mineral, her illness begins to miraculously disappear. In an instant, her skin gets repaired, making her appearance younger and stronger. Stunned, Obi returns to talk to Wolfgang inside his old office. Donald, who has witnessed what happened to Renate in the temple, follows Obi and eavesdrops on her conversation with Wolfgang. He also uses his iPhone to snap a picture of Wolfgang. Inside the old office, Wolfgang eventually reveals to Obi that he is not human but from another race called the Vril. The Vril is a race of shape-shifting reptilian humanoids who first arrived on Earth during the age of the dinosaurs. To further prove his point, Wolfgang slices off his pinky finger. Shortly after, Wolfgang's amputated pinky finger regrows and heals when he consumes the same small mineral. The small mineral he gave Obi is known as a Vrilia, and it is the Vril's most valuable possession. The Vrilia is a pure energy powerful enough to run their ships and also allowed the Vril to sustain their lives for a very long time. According to him, the Vril landed on Earth after their ship was heavily damaged from a long journey. Like human beings, the Vril need air and water to live. Wolfgang arrived on Earth with his brother, who later became the leader of their race. He and his brother attempted to make contact with the dinosaurs and realized that they were the only intelligent creatures on Earth at the time. As a result, Wolfgang studied the surroundings on Earth, which led him to discover primates. One day, Wolfgang took a small portion of the Vrilia without his knowledge. He decided to feed the Vrilia to his favorite monkeys named Adam and Eve. As it turns out, the Vrilia triggered and boosted the evolution of the primates, which led to the beginning of the human race. On the other hand, Wolfgang shares how he and the other Vril did not like how the evolution of humankind turned out through time. In turn, the Vril decided to settle underground, building a city on the center of the Earth called Agartha. Wolfgang encourages Obi to travel to the city of Agartha and acquire the Vrilia as she wants to guarantee the survival of the people in the moon base. Before she leaves the office, Obi takes Wolfgang's ancient map and his cut-off finger. As Obi prepares to leave for the mission, she takes Sasha along with her, following Wolfgang's advice. Just then, Donald appears with a few jobsists. The group corners Obi and Sasha, insisting on joining their trip. On their way to sneak out of the moon base, they stumble across Malcolm, and after much convincing, he volunteers to be part of their expedition. Thus, Obi, Sasha, Malcolm, along with Dominic and the Jobsists fly to Earth using the Refuge spaceship. In the middle of their trip, Obi grows anxious of the ship's condition. She consults Sasha, the ship's pilot, and he relieves her that the ship is working well. However, their ship suffers a hard crash on the Earth's surface after Obi accidentally pushes a wrong button. Fortunately, the group finds themselves landing right in the center of the Earth. They move out of their crashed spaceship and use the compass in Sasha's old Nokia 3310 phone. Obi leads the crew around a forest when they hear a sound of a wild animal nearby. While Malcolm volunteers to check it out, Sasha approaches Obi, assuring her that he will keep her safe. Obi, on the other hand, does not believe Sasha, thinking that he is weaker than her. The two engage in a petty fight until Malcolm returns with a sharp animal tooth. Obi checks the ancient map to look for another route with the help of Sasha. The crew continues to move towards the city of Agartha, located at the centermost part of the Earth. Meanwhile, in Agartha, the Vril turns out to be the nation's leaders throughout history who shape-shifted. The President of the United States, who also happens to be a Vril, gathers with the most influential and famous personalities such as Vril Mark Zuckerberg, Vril Osama bin Laden, Vril Margaret Thatcher, and many others. The leader of the Vril, who is revealed to be Wolfgang's brother, Vril Adolf Hitler, arrives at the gathering. He criticizes the United States president, blaming her for making the surface of the Earth uninhabitable. As punishment, the Vril members kill the president through the order of Vril Hitler. Around the same time, Obi and her crew reach the temple in the center of Agartha. They encounter Vril Steve Jobs with small dinosaurs and Vril guards, protecting the Holy Grail, the vessel containing the Vrilia. Donald and the Jobsists are eager to meet their god, making them rush toward Vril Steve and kneel before him. Obi, Sasha, and Malcolm seizes the chance and decides to flee while Vril Steve is distracted. When they come across Vril Steve's guards, Malcolm holds them off as Obi and Sasha escape. Obi and Sasha are forced to continue with the mission on their own, disguising themselves as Vril temple guards to steal the Holy Grail. They evade the temple guard's suspicion and enter the temple using Wolfgang's sliced finger. Meanwhile, Malcolm and the Jobsists are captured by Vril Steve Jobs and are taken to Vril Hitler. Donald shares valuable information to Vril Hitler, preventing themselves from being killed. Using his iPhone, he shows Vril Hitler a picture of his brother Wolfgang during his previous conversation with Obi. Donald also offers his help to Vril Hitler in exchange for letting all the Jobsists in Neomania live with the Vril and Agartha. However, Vril Hitler does not follow through with the deal and feeds the Jobsists to Vril, Steve, and the guards. Malcolm is able to free himself from captivity, knocking Vril, Steve, and Vril Hitler on the ground before running away. Inside the temple, Obi and Sasha manage to take the Holy Grail. However, this brings the city of Agartha to ruin, as the city's sun immediately collapses and wreaks havoc. Obi and Sasha ride a chariot of rhinoceros and reunite with Malcolm during their escape. Soon later, Vril Osama bin Laden, Vril Margaret Thatcher, and the other Vril members chase after their chariot. Just then, Agartha's sun catches up to the Vril members, killing them in an instant. Obi, Sasha, and Malcolm manage to escape safely, and they watch as the city crumbles before them. The three accomplish their mission, barely fleeing in Sasha's old spaceship. However, Vril Hitler launches their Vril spaceship, following them all the way to the dark side of the moon. Back in Neomania, Renate scolds Obi for doing the dangerous mission and greets her with a hug. To Renate's surprise, Wolfgang shows up and demands Obi to give him the Holy Grail. Obi resists, causing him to hold Renate hostage. Just before they start fighting, the Vril spaceship crashes through their moon base. Vril Hitler enters the scene riding his Tyrannosaurus named Blondie. He greets everyone in the moon base using the Nazi salute before attacking Neomania. While the rest of the residents run away, the two brothers, Wolfgang and Vril Hitler, meet face to face. Vril Hitler calls Wolfgang pathetic for being nice towards the human race. He then initiates the battle as Vril Hitler orders Blondie to kill Wolfgang. Consequently, Obi, Renate, Malcolm, and Sasha retreats to one of the storage rooms. They spread out as Sasha prepares to launch their spaceship while Malcolm leads the evacuation of the residents. Obi tells Renate to evacuate, but instead, Renate bids farewell to her. She urges Obi to go and save the remaining human race while she handles Vril Hitler and Wolfgang. Renate drinks from the Holy Grail before parting ways with Obi. The Vrilia takes effect in an instant, restoring Renate's youthful appearance and vigor. During the battle between Vril Hitler and Renate, Renate launches a powerful kick enough to knock him and Blondie on the ground. Vril Hitler attempts to retaliate but gets pounded by heavy metal, leading to his death. Meanwhile, Obi alerts everyone in the moon base to evacuate on the ship. She gives the Holy Grail to Sasha, and he uses the Vrilia to power up the engine of Obi's spaceship. Right before the ship leaves, Obi calls out to Renate and urges her to join them. But Renate stays behind to hold off Wolfgang, who shoots her, mortally injuring her. Just then, the whole base starts to collapse, and Renate gets killed by the falling debris. Obi watches Renate and tries to save her, but Malcolm and Sasha drag her into the ship. Heartbroken, Obi tears up inside the spaceship. With the death of Renate, Obi realizes that she is on her own and that every human being inside now relies on her. She, Malcolm, and Sasha pilot the ship together and fly away from the moon base. Just then, Wolfgang emerges behind them. He has taken over the Vril spaceship and chases after them to retrieve the Vrilia. Sasha panics, looking into the ship for weapons. To their dismay, Obi's spaceship is a transport ship with no existing weapons to fight for battle. As Wolfgang continues to fire at them, he blackmails Obi to surrender the Vrilia. Obi is confused at how Wolfgang can hear and contact them. In turn, Wolfgang reveals to the crew that he used Donald's iPhone, which contains cellular network. Moreover, he expresses his disappointment at their reluctance to work together with him. Malcolm takes over the ship, evading Wolfgang's attacks while Obi retrieves Sasha's Nokia 3310 phone. Using the old phone, Obi and Sasha hack into Donald's iPhone. They successfully trigger a mechanism that allows Donald's iPhone to self-destruct. The explosion kills Wolfgang and destroys the entire Vril spaceship. With Wolfgang defeated, Obi, Sasha, Malcolm, and everyone in the ship cheer in celebration. In the aftermath of the battle, the residents of Neomania have a simple dinner on the ship. Sasha watches Malcolm surrounded and admired by many residents. Obi notices Sasha feeling down, making her approach him. During their talk, Sasha expresses how he feels inferior towards Malcolm, who he sees as a strong, brave, and dependable man. He shares all of his insecurities, but Obi consoles him as she brings up his skills in engineering the spaceship. Obi has grown interested in Sasha's way of fixing and rewiring parts and engines. She looks at him with respect and admiration before she walks away. Malcolm, who has been watching the two of them, approaches Sasha soon afterwards. Malcolm encourages Sasha to confess to Obi because she likes him anyway. Sasha seemingly denies it, believing that Obi likes Malcolm. Malcolm then admits about being gay as he begins speaking about his personal preferences. Just then, he suddenly collapses in front of Sasha, claiming to have consumed food that triggered his allergic reaction. Everyone deems that Malcolm has died, prompting Obi to lead a funeral service in space for him and her mother, Renate. During the funeral, Obi remembers her time with Renate. She deeply regrets how she has not taken the time to tell her mother how much she loves her. All of a sudden, Malcolm rises from his coffin. Obi and Sasha stare at Malcolm in shock and confusion, and Malcolm explains that his body abruptly shuts down every time he gets allergies. Before leaving his coffin, he teases Obi and Sasha, who have developed attraction towards each other. Obi and Sasha spend their evening together, watching the galaxy through a window. Eventually, the two kiss, giving in to their mutual attraction. Later, the residents of Neomania, known as the remaining human beings in the entire universe, are led by Obi. They all leave the dark side of the moon for good and set out on a 100-year journey to Mars. Obi is hopeful that the human race can survive and find new habitat on the Red Planet. In the distant future, the human race is revealed to have successfully established another base, finding new life on Mars. This film is a sequel to the Iron Sky franchise, which was released during 2012. Although, it is worth mentioning that this film has very little references to the original movie. The story builds references from a few conspiracy theories. It also parodies several real-life personalities known throughout history, which makes the plot considerably bold and ambitious for making this attempt. New characters are introduced following the first movie. However, most of the new characters feel forced, and the film lacks in building the personality of each character. In addition, the film seems like it ended in a rush. On another note, among the film's good points is how it presents an interesting scene depicting humankind's excessive adoration for technology. Modern technology is treated as a religion, and when looking beyond its comedic effect, it subtly reflects what is actually happening in the real world in the boom of the digital age. Overall, this film brings a decent amount of entertainment and may be more preferable to the younger viewers.